on the street corners to look at people who seem to be doing well for themselves, we're looking in the wrong place. If we take a step downtown, we'll see many professional Black men. We'll see many people who have vision for themselves, visions for their families, and visions for themselves going 10, 20, 30 years down in the future. So I think it will be very important to highlight that, but also important to understand the struggles that we have had in the past, what we learned from those struggles, and how we can proceed in the future.
But don't you guys agree that the TV shows portray us as drug dealers, gang bangers, thugs on the corner? Majority of the TV shows. Now we do have TV shows with positive families. But you got stuff like Power, stuff that all our young kids now they are in college selling drugs. But it's always that link, African American men, drugs. So how do this is going to lead up to my second question. Both of you are well educated and have great careers. Both of you come from solid foundation, family with solid foundation. But Black males like you are rarely discussed. How can we as a race change that narrative? I want to see people that's doing what you guys doing on TV. I want to see them going up the chain of command with 3 wonderful grandkids who you guys have in programs like swimming, baseball, where Trey is not old enough yet, but you're doing something with your kids. Your kids are not being raised just by a single mom. There's 2 Black, strong, educated men in the house that's got it. We don't see this on TV because they want us to always believe that Black males are not home with the Black women. The kids, 70% of Black families are raised without a Black man. We know there's some reason why that happens, but how can we change that narrative so we can see people like you on TV portrayed as successful rather than a thug?
Right. I think the first thing is I've got to shout out the way that my family poured into me, and that's really where it starts. Is if we want people to kind of see the example that we want to be portrayed as, we've got to show our young boys what we want to see. And my family did that for me. I saw a family that was together. I saw my mom and my father working together as a family, and I looked up to that. That was what I wanted. That's what I want to emulate in my life and for my family. And I believe that as we as men continue to do that over and over again, we'll get the spotlight that it deserves. Now, I'm not here to say that we've got to prove anything to anybody, because I've seen a culture where I know a lot of people that they had their dad in their life, their father in their life. They grew up very much like me. And it's not the norm to see the abandonment or to have those issues that are portrayed on TV. It's just that that's the overwhelming voice, right? Yes. And I think that's one thing that I really want to do in my life and with my family, is be a voice that's louder than those, right? Something that speaks so loud that people see it on TV. And they're like, no, everybody's not like that. I know the Dickerson family, or I know the Mahone family. They're not like that at all. Like that's not them at all. And I think that's the example that we're able to provide to our sons. Yeah. And that's really just that's kind of what I think about when I think about how they portray Black men on television. It's like, no, we're not doing that. That's not.
We're better than that.
We're better than that. That's exactly right.
So you telling me that you portraying what you saw at your house, and now you're doing it where Trey could see it, and most likely you're going to improve on it because each generation get better.
Absolutely.
Okay, good question. You good answer.
It was a good answer. I would also second that. Comes out to foundation. So myself, I do come from what they call a broken household. But it is good to know that we did receive love from both sides of the family, mother and father. Most black men are pretty much counted out when they have a broken household because they usually don't have that father figure. I can lean to say that my father was the best father that I can imagine. Someone that
I'm your father, son.
I know who your father is.
I'm the father, right?
But I like to say that I had a very strong black father who surpassed all barriers, who was able to still pour into me no matter what kind of conflict or issues that were thrown in front of him. Sacrifice. What I can say that Reverend Ken is the epitome of a man who sacrificed.
Thank you, sir.
Myself, going through college, he told me, don't even worry about financial aid. This here created that foundation and created that roadmap for what I would like to be as a father. Of course, like you said, there is, outside forces. There are people out there with ulterior motives. But to know that you have a family background, someone who loves you, someone who supports you, and someone who trusts you, that goes a long way. For the person that I want to be to my sons, while I will admit I'm far from perfect, but I strive to be. If you saw me 10, 15 years ago to the person that I am now, you will see that I closed the gap from where I was to where I am. And for that, I'm proud of myself and for what my family has entrusted me with, wife, children, mother and father. But when it comes to changing the narrative, again, I believe that we have to look at the platforms. When it comes to television shows, we have to remember that this is for entertainment purposes only. This does not portray the average black man. If I have a group of 20 friends, I can show you 15 of them that are probably more successful than the people that are counting them out in specific conversations.
That's right. That's right, sir.
Not a part of. So when it comes to that narrative, we have to erase that. We have to take into account what we see and what we know, and then what we want to see in the future, and then make our actions based on those.
Yeah, Kenny came from a divorced family. His mother and I divorced, but one thing we did, we worked together on bringing up our kids. When I received my MBA, I had opportunity to work for IBM, and they was going to send me to Atlanta, Seattle. They was going to have me moving around, and I had turned it down because I could not be a father in a broken family traveling. I did travel, but not like moving from states to state. My purpose was to be home and raise really that boy because he needed me more than anyone else. And I'm proud of how he turned out. He said he's different than he was 15 years ago. That's part of life. That's what we call growth. Good job, guys. Good job. Both of you are believers and worship daily. Why?
I think to me, it's literally breath. You can't do anything without having that base and that not financial, but that spiritual backing and that relationship with God. And it requires daily fellowship. And when you miss, you're going to feel yourself be a little bit off track, and not having that, and not having your day start with that. Is not the right way to start. And so for me, it's about starting it with family prayer. Myself, Shantae, and Trey, we pray every morning before we do anything. We want to make sure that we are setting the right track for our day, not getting too far off track. That's just something that we've, as a family committed to. And that's something that I want to be a leader in. I want to be somebody that I don't have to be carried spiritually. I want to be the leader of my household from a spiritual aspect, because that's important as well. So that's something that I've seen, just with my parents both being in ministry. That was huge in our in growing up. But as an adult, and as a husband, as a father, I've had to find it for myself, and it's not been easy. I'm far from perfect. But what God is looking for is that effort, and He's going to help you along the path, and that's something that's been really important for me and my family.
Good, very good, son.
So growing up, we had a very, very strong presence in church. Of course, we went to church every Sunday. I remember days going to church at 9 a.m. and not leaving until 10 p.m.
Yeah,
So how those days have changed, the word stays the same.
that's right.
So the word stays the same. So as you would imagine, in church, you pick up those anecdotes. Back in the day, we really didn't understand prior to trials, tribulations. But once you grow a little older, once you get a little wiser, once you go through a couple things, those words still, ring. They still ring synonymous. Many trials, many tribulations. But at the end of the day, I couldn't depend on people. I couldn't depend on money. The only thing that I could depend on was my spiritual faith and the fact that I know that my God has brought me a long way.
Yes.
Further. So that's just what I have faith in. Family, as you would imagine, things change. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of trials, like I said. But at the end of the day, we can all count. We can believe that God will get us through all of it. When it comes to making sure that my children have that same fundamental background in the spiritual world, while times have changed for sure, I still make it a big priority. Post-COVID, it's a little bit more difficult to get everyone inside the church. But I do make it a priority to ensure that my wife and I, we are at church as much as we can, every Sunday if possible. Just for that spiritual truth, just for that strengthening, and just to know that we have that fellowship with the family members in church, and to see that we are not alone when it comes to tribulations, trials.
Yeah, it's nothing like a spiritual foundation, is it?
That's right.
Upon this rock, I build my church. Here we go. A growing number of young folks your age are inclined to accept Jesus as their personal savior. But both of you do. Understand that Jesus is the way, that Jesus is the truth, and Jesus is the light, and no man come to the Father but by the Son. Younger folks now are saying, I don't believe in Jesus, but I believe in a higher calling. But the word teaches us that if you're going to see God, you got to come through Jesus. What do you think about that statement?
I believe it's exactly that. If you want salvation, there's only one way. There's only one way to get it. I think as time has gone on, if you think back to kind of the older days, there wasn't a way to get a lot of different ideas out. Really, you went to church, you listened to the preacher or whoever was speaking, and that person had the platform. Now, with the rise of social media and the different things that are available, a lot of people can get their message out, whether it's good or bad, instantly to a lot of people. And the amount of influence that certain people have, whether it's true or not, is really not the issue. It's already reached those people. So again, back to kind of what that previous question was about our foundation, staying close to and on the right path and staying with that daily communication is what's going to keep you from being swayed one way or the other by these new things that sound really good. It sounds good to have a believe in a higher power. It sounds okay, but really that's not Jesus. That's not Christ. That's not the way. Yeah, that's not the way. Exactly. So I think it really is, it's a very different time that we're in, and you have to watch. You have to be watchful. That's one thing my mom used to say all the time. You gotta watch. What are you talking about? I didn't get it. I didn't understand it then. But now I do, because even the smallest deviation from the truth is off course. Even the smallest deviation, because you can look up and you're a year down the road and you're like, wow, how did I get so far off track? And it's just by just being a little bit outside of of what the truth is.
Okay. Kenny?
I think when it comes to young black men, as Kevin and I, I think we have a lot of those outside forces, like we talked about earlier. People who really downplay, the spiritual world, our faith that we have, and also just really not understanding when it comes to why we go to church, what we're looking for while we're in church. Is the pastor a true pastor? Just like you said and alluded to earlier, with the availability of false and negative information, I think that is really starting to water down the church slightly. We've seen, false pastors get exposed. We've seen pastors not really care about the people outside of their church, just the membership that they are accustomed to having.
Right.
Despite the fact that the members are getting old and dying out, which is more than likely a reason why we're not seeing, growth inside the church.
Right. That's right.
I believe the scripture says, where there is God, there is peace and there is power. So if you have a church that doesn't have people, you're losing that power. So I think that we have to look back at leadership. We have to figure out, who are we choosing to lead our people? Who are we choosing to lead our families? Are these people there when the time actually counts?
Yeah.
Most times we don't find that. And I don't know, maybe churches are too big. Maybe it's becoming to the point where it's impersonal.
And Ken, they might have 50 members and too busy.
They might have 50 members and too busy. They might not work Monday through Friday. They probably prepare on Saturday, preach on Sunday, and they got the remainder of the week off. But the people that I look up to, my pastor, who I respect dearly, who leads a big church, I feel that he really has the people at heart. I believe when looking at the ministers and the people who lead the church, are they living life with a good heart? Is that what their main focus is? Or is it to, wear that $3,000 suit every Sunday, go outside in the Mercedes-Benz paid for by the membership? I think we really need to go back to that. Being self-critical. Are we living the life that we want to be portrayed? If they had a video camera on me 24/7, would I be proud of that person that I'm portraying?
Wow, that was a deep sound.
So, so just thinking about that, and then doing some self-reflecting, being self-critical, I think that'll actually help the church out. And that is what the young folks would respect, versus what we're seeing now when it comes to those false pastors.
Now, Kenny, some of our churches after the pandemic are struggling to get folks in the church, especially young folks.
Yeah.
Get them in the doors. But some churches are bursting out of the seams with young folks, like your church. You got to take a number to go to church. Mm-hmm. What is he doing that other people aren't doing? Because your church is like a magnet. When you got to take a lottery to go to church, because there's that many folks for a young minister, a young membership. And Kevin, I think you got a young minister as well. Mm-hmm. But these young folks are busting the seams of these churches. But then a lot of the churches, majority of the churches are having a problem just getting the people back in the doors. 1,000-seat churches might have 100, 200 people in the service. What is going on with some of these churches that just, boom, right after the pandemic, here we go. We're going to take a lottery. And I heard you tell your wife that you got to get the tickets by a certain time or you won't be able to go to church. Wow. Come on. What's going on here? Some churches are dying and other churches are blowing up.
So I can speak for our church here in Phoenix. I think it's very, very different now, the landscape and how you get people to come to church versus 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago, most of the services were not streamed. Now, everything is streamed. Availability of church is there. So now there's this way of going to church that doesn't require as much effort, that doesn't require you to leave your household. And so I think that's a part of it. I think that's one thing. And then as far as churches not being able to get people back in the door, some haven't adjusted. Some haven't been able to keep up. Yeah, exactly. You have to pivot. You've got to be able to provide and meet the people maybe where they are. Here at our church, the Sanctuary in Phoenix, they've done an awesome job of providing a means for everybody to get the help and the assistance that they need. And we're getting people back into church, but we're also providing an experience to them online that they also can participate in. And so not every church is going to be able to do that or has been able to do that. But I don't think it's something where, all hope is lost. The environment has changed, and it does take a little bit of time